Facebook Live.
Well, good morning, Rotary District 7770. Welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Friday, July 24th. Sorry we are a little bit late this morning, but we are pleased to be joined as our speaker today, a polio survivor himself, Mr. John Nanni. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So happy to have you here. I will say I've had the pleasure to meet you at the district conference in Myrtle Beach.
Yep.
We were sitting at the same table there. I was the guy taking pictures, if you remember.
I do remember.
So welcome back to District 7770. Will you first start off, right before you go into your presentation, just tell the viewers here a little bit about you, how long you've been in Rotary, what club you're currently in.
Okay. All right. I've been a Rotarian for a little less than 10 years. Often people ask, well, why didn't you become a Rotarian before this? And basically nobody asked. My club is the Middletown Odessa Townsend Rotary Club, also known as the MOT Rotary Club. It's in Middletown, Delaware. Our district 7630 is all of the Rotary clubs in all of Delaware and Eastern Shore, Maryland. And we are proud that this year we have the largest percentage donation of DDF and donations from our club, over $101 per district member average. So we're very proud of that. And I really appreciate you inviting me to talk to you today about polio and post-polio syndrome. Because I've given this talk before, I sort of will, go over a little bit about polio, in my situation, but I really want to talk on a couple of different things that are really important. Polio, one of the most feared infectious diseases. And I'm representing more than 2 million polio survivors in North America and more than 20 million polio survivors throughout the world. However, polio is not just a modern day disease. Hieroglyphics found in Egypt around 1500 BC, that's 3,500 years ago, show a polio victim on crutches with one leg smaller than the other. So we fast forward to 1953, these things that pop up, my goodness, I'm so sorry. So basically the iron lungs of yesterday are today's ventilators. Here's a bank of iron lungs with people stacked on top of each other. Here's a baby just a few months old in an iron lung. If one member of the family came down with polio, many times the whole family was quarantined. So the iron lung's not the only thing the 50s had in common with today's shelter-in-place orders because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Scientists actually knew less about polio back in the 50s than today's scientists know about coronavirus. Like COVID-19, they did not know why some people caught polio had mild symptoms and others so severe that they died or had extreme outcomes. In the case of polio, paralyzed limbs and breathing issues. Like COVID-19, people were contagious before they had symptoms, thus unknowingly infecting others. In fact, they now know that every diagnosed case of paralytic polio, there are as many as 200 people with polio walking around with no symptoms at all. One of the major reasons why it's so hard to eradicate polio. Those people many times, they now have post-polio syndrome and don't know that they had polio and no idea what is causing their problems and their pain. Another similarity between COVID-19 and polio is that both targeted specific specific but different age groups. COVID, especially lethal for the elderly, especially if they have existing health issues. For polio, the young. They suspect the young with polio because polio enters the body through the mouth, and little kids always put everything in their mouth. Okay. Like today's pandemic in the 50s, before the Salk vaccine, people were frightened. It was a scary time because catching polio was as easy as catching a cold. And like today, summer rituals, swimming pools are closed, Little League fields in many towns are empty. And just like today, mothers don't have their kids with them back then while grocery shopping. I often hear from polio survivors stories on how they felt abandoned when they were in hospital polio wards, because like today's coronavirus patients, they weren't allowed to have visitors. They would go weeks without seeing their parents, and when they did, it was from a far distance, usually behind glass windows. This is me before I started to walk. What's interesting in this photo is what's missing. My mom refused to have my leg braces photographed. I suspect for people, fear that people would ostracize me or my family because I had polio. I was paralyzed from my neck down when I was 10 months old, only 6 months before the Salk vaccine was widely distributed. But I walked a year later. I got to the point where most people never thought I had polio. I played baseball, basketball, and football, but I was slow, not very coordinated, and my coaches who didn't know I had polio would always yell at me and often called me lazy. But that was polio for a lot of people. I was one of the lucky ones. Many young adults or children died or were paralyzed or grew up with an arm or leg significantly smaller because their muscles atrophied. I have many friends that got polio when they were older. I was blessed because I don't remember having polio. My mom would tell me how I would scream in pain when she would stretch my muscles while I was paralyzed. For those older, when they got polio, they remember all too well the pain and suffering from multiple painful corrective surgeries. One friend even had their good leg shortened 5 inches to match their polio leg so they could walk without a significant limp. When I turned 40, I started having renewed weakness, muscle weakness, joint pain, and extreme fatigue. 15 years later, I'm confined to a wheelchair for most of my mobility. For every child we save from polio, if they survive the initial polio virus attack, we truly are saving them from a life of pain and suffering. Post-polio syndrome is these symptoms occur about 30 to 40 years after the original polio virus attack, in as many as 70 to 75% of those paralyzed by polio. I'm lucky I live in a world where there are organizations like Rotary International, with Rotarians like yourself, who care about the welfare of others, who put service above self. April 12th of this year was the 65th anniversary of Jonas Salk announcing the success of the initial human test to a national radio audience. President Eisenhower declared Salk and his team of scientists national heroes, and were great celebrations worldwide. I wish there was as much enthusiasm about vaccinations today as there were back in 1955. Salk refused to patent the vaccine, estimating that he turned down more than $6 or $7 billion by literally giving away the vaccine to the world. Salk often said our greatest responsibility is to be good ancestors, and I submit to you that Jonas Salk will go down in history as a great ancestor. So count your blessings. I'm assuming that most of you received your vaccinations when you were younger from childhood diseases. There are people who cannot be vaccinated. There are people who have compromised immune systems, those who are going through cancer treatments and things like that. So basically, we need the majority of the people around those people be vaccinated, thus creating the herd immunity. This past year, because we have areas of the United States with lower vaccination rates than India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, there were over 1,300 cases of measles. Thousands died in Europe and Asia last year in measles. To control measles, 93% of the population needs to be vaccinated to create a herd immunity. For polio, you need 85% of the population to create this needed herd immunity. Unfortunately, every 60 seconds, a child dies from preventable diseases. 1,500 kids die every day in developing countries from vaccine-preventable diseases. And according to Bill Gates, for every dollar spent on childhood immunizations, you get $44 in economic benefit. The cost savings from not having to treat the individual when their initial illness, there's the treatment and taking care of people who are ill their whole lives, and also the productivity those people have by not being sick. $1 for $44 economic benefit is a pretty good investment. As you know, Rotary started Polio Plus in 1985 when there were in developing countries 1,000 cases of polio a day. So far this year, there's been 94 cases, 34 in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, and 60 in Pakistan. Unfortunately, immunization campaigns for the past almost 5 months have been on hold because of COVID-19, and I'm fearful that those numbers are going to spike in the next couple of months. But we are going. In fact, just announced the other day, Pakistan and India and Afghanistan are starting up this week their national immunization days. So the good news is Nigeria has been polio-free for almost 4 years, and at the end of August, they will be officially declared polio-free. And all of Africa, an incredible, feat. With the help of Rotary and its rural partners, we have vaccinated more than 4 billion children, many by dedicated Rotarians during National Immunization Days. Rotary has helped prevent more than 19 million cases of polio, avoid more than 2 million deaths while raising more than $3 billion. We vaccinate more than 450 million children a year in developing countries. But until polio is eradicated, it is a world threat. And because there's no cure for polio, vaccination is the only protection. Now, this is a map of 24 hours of plane rides. Each line is one plane ride. This was before COVID, but you can see how COVID actually spread in the world. You can hardly see North America and Europe. We truly are a plane ride away from polio returning to the United States if it is not eradicated, especially if we don't keep up vaccination rates. I pray that the eradication of polio happens soon so that all kids around the world will avoid what happened to many like myself when a vaccine was not available. So often I'm asked, what's the plus in Polio Plus? Over the past several months, the Polio Plus infrastructure Rotary helped build, including its tools, workforce, and extensive surveillance networks, has been used to prevent the spread of COVID-19 by supporting response activities in many countries, including Nigeria, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. This truly represents the plus in Polio Plus, just as it did in the past to respond to outbreaks of Ebola, yellow fever, and the avian flu. And a prime example of that is the role Polio Plus played in literally stopping the Ebola outbreak twice in the past 4 years in Africa, especially in Nigeria, stopping it from becoming a pandemic because of the Polio Plus. Here we have a polio survivor in Nigeria who used to have to travel miles to get clean water for his herd and his family. Polio Plus drilled boreholes in his village, and now he gets clean water locally for his herd and family, and is much more productive. A few months ago, before the pandemic, In India, NID workers and volunteers vaccinated more than 32 million children in one weekend. These immense NID vaccine campaigns are also changing societies in many Muslim countries by employing women to go house to house vaccinating children. In the Muslim religion, a man cannot enter a home if a man of the house is not there. A woman can. Therefore, by employing women to do the vaccinations, less children are skipped and the number of women in the workforce are increasing, therefore changing societal views on women working outside of the home. During NIDs in areas that have malaria, mosquito nets are given out by Polio Plus workers. This polio survivor had no way of financially supporting himself until Polio Plus taught him how to make hand-driven bikes that allow polio survivors to get around without dragging themselves on the ground. He started a business making these tricycles. Here's one of his employees, also a polio survivor, that was not productive in society, now has a job, and mostly because of Rotary's Polio Plus. While confronting the new challenges of today, it is important that Rotary members continue to fight to end polio, to sustain our commitment to the children of the world we made in 1985, and to reach our fundraising goal of $50 million a year. I'm happy to report that in the final weeks of June, we did reach the goal of $50 million, thus qualifying for the full Gates matching monies, making our $50 million donation become $150 million. Continued contributions to Polio Plus will ensure that the polio eradication activities that are ongoing, such as surveillance and vaccine supply, continue, and that we come out of this crisis strong and tackle the remaining barriers to a polio-free world. There are many ways to think outside the box to raise money for Polio Plus. North Carolina Rotarian Nancy Barbie has a raffle going on right now. You can contact her. You can go on her Facebook page and see how to get a $10 raffle to win this watch, which commemorates India's great achievement of eradicating polio in 2014. As USA World Coordinator, USA Coordinator for the World Greatest Meal, I'd be remiss not to mention the incredible fundraising program started by UK Rotarian Mukesh Malhotra and Australian polio survivor and Rotarian Suzanne Ray. This is a fun way to raise money for Polio Plus. Just go to wgmeal.com. I want to end with some exciting news. The polio vaccine is the best weapon that we have to fight polio. Here's Ann Matthews helping vaccinate a child in India a few years ago. The exciting news is that the vaccine, the weapon, the oral polio vaccine is getting an upgrade that would truly be one of the last nails needed to finally put in the coffin of this dreaded disease called polio. Polio Plus and its wonderful world partners have been developing a new oral polio vaccine. As you know, occasionally the current oral polio vaccine will mutate and actually cause some cases of what's called circulating vaccine-derived polio. This new oral polio vaccine has been designed not to mutate. It has just finished its exhaustive human testing and is currently being manufactured to be distributed in countries that have had these circulating vaccine-derived polio cases. It's truly a great opportunity for Rotary to finally eradicate polio. As I said, I've been one of the lucky ones. If I was born in a developing country back in the 1950s, I wouldn't be here today. I've shared my personal polio story with you, certainly not for your sympathy, for my personal situation. Through the love of my family and friends and being fortunate to find knowledgeable doctors, I've been able to be a father, husband, son, friend, and now a proud Rotarian. Please remember that individual efforts started organizations like Rotary, Shelter Box, Rise Against Hunger, Easter Seals, the CART program. and so many more humanitarian efforts. So never underestimate your individual efforts or ideas. And as Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you for inviting me to talk to you about polio and Polio Plus. Sorry for being late and getting here. And if you have time, I'd be happy to answer questions, but everyone has my email, or people on this have my email address. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to give me a shout out. Thank you so much.
John, thank you. Great job. Great job.
Thank you.
I do want to go to the chat box and call out a thing that was posted there. So you're from District 7630, and you've had an epic year in polio giving, I understand.
Yeah.
In Zone 33, which represents 17 districts, your district was #1 in 3 categories. So congratulations. So can you tell us your secret?
Well, we had a couple of big contributors who normally give to the annual fund when they have a distribution of 401k, and I was able to convince them that this year to give to Polio Plus. The other big thing that occurred is we, for the past 2 years, have been selling pins called I Save 67 times 3, $40. We came up with $40 figure because Rotary wants all clubs to give $1,500 a year in Polio Plus. Well, we felt it wasn't fair to the smaller clubs versus the larger clubs. So we took $1,500 times the 39 clubs we have, divided by the number of members in the district, and it came out to $40. In fact, if you take $40 multiplied by the number of Rotarians in the world, you come pretty close to the $50 million that we need to raise to match, to get the matching money from the Gates Foundation. So we sold these pins. Our district governor last year made a deal with the foundation chair. They would match any sales of the pins with DDF, the district designated funds. DDF is matched dollar for dollar by World Fund. So he raised $1,400 selling pins during his official district club visits. Okay. So you take $14,000 plus the World Fund plus the DDF, then multiply that by 3 with the Gates Foundation matching monies. That $14,000 became $126,000. So it's really important. In fact, the way we got a week before the end of June, the end of the 2019-20 year, we were about a little less than $3 million short of the $50 million. DDF funds coming in from all the districts from the across the world, once they realize that, oh, well, we have extra DDF, let's send it to Polio Plus. That's what put us over the $50 million thing. This year, we are doing a fundraiser called Take Out Polio, I Save 600. And $40 times 3 with the matching money from this district designated funds and World Fund, times the Gates Foundation becomes $40 donation that you get a pin, and it becomes $360 with all the matching funds. So we're getting pins made. I can send information on it. I'm getting extra pins made. I have about 4 districts that I've dealt with in the past purchasing pins. If you don't get the DDF, we're having a pin made that says I save 200, which is the $40 times the Gates Foundation $120, which will buy 200 doses of vaccine. So there's a lot of ways of thinking outside the box, and your district and your clubs have a great history of supporting Polio Plus. Let's keep it up, and let's kill this this dreaded disease. Any other questions?
I don't see any, but I do want to give a shout out. You know, Bernie Rydell does a great job in our district. So, Bernie's our $1 million man.
All right.
Bernie, go to the chat box. There's a comment there for you about getting some of those in our district.
You have my email address. I can send, I have a brief outline of what the program is and also an order form. The pins are on order. I should be getting them within 3 weeks.
Actually, John, we saw your post on Facebook a couple of weeks ago,
Okay.
and we circulated it. I have a co-chair. Mary Gask is the co-chair of our End Polio now.
Okay, yeah.
She is. And we sent the information. We're actually in process of discussing it. So we have some fundraisers too that we do in DDF in particular. So we have to. There's only so much DDF to go around, and polio gets a lot of it already from our district. So
Right.
Well, you know, the thing I've been talking with districts is that even though you're planning on giving, let's say, 20% of your DDF, you know, earmark it as matching pin sales. It'll be an incentive for your individual club members to donate the $40 and DDF that you're going to give anyways, but use it as a tool to you know, enhance things. There's a statistic that came out. Only 8% of all Rotarians in the world donate to Polio Plus.
yeah, I saw that.
And just a little, I think it's 53% of clubs give to Polio Plus. So it's an incentive to use those DDF as an incentive to buy the pins, and you'll increase the amount of money overall that you get for Polio Plus.
John, you said they're $40, but what is the cost for the pins?
The pins are $2, and so you can buy. You know, if you buy like 50, you know, you can, on that order form, I'm purchasing the ones that my district is purchasing pins for our own district, but I'm purchasing pins, both the iSafe 600 and also the iSafe 200 pins. I'm purchasing them personally, and so you know, the order form is to have them the money for the $2 a pin to send to me, and I'll get you the pins. So I think, Mary, did you sent me an email on that? I'm not sure.
I did.
Yeah,
I forwarded it on to Bernie and to Pauline,
Okay.
and we've kind of been discussing it back and forth. So yes, I did.
Was the order form in that also?
I believe it was. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Look forward to hearing from you on it.
And I
Thank
think we'll end with this. We'll end with this comment here. All Paul Harris Society fellows should pledge to split 50-50 the annual $1,000 between the annual fund and Polio Plus. That would help out a lot.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't realize that the money going to Polio Plus also goes towards Paul Harris Fellow credits.
And then you can use the credits to double up, as we did with Bernie when we do the fundraisers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You can also, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You went back on mute, Ann.
Also give $1,000 to polio.
There you go.
Well, John, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
It's good to see you again.
Sorry for the mix-up on the time.
Thank you,
Okay.
John. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll see everyone on Monday for the next conversation with Rotary Action People. I will end with the Rotary four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thanks for being here today. That's a wrap for Conversations with Rotary Action People. Take care.
Stay safe, guys.
Bye-bye.
Stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Bye, Christian. Bye.
Bye.